White asked us to come and talk. I'm going to have you, we didn't really, we had talked at a chamber, and then he asked us to come here. And this is the kind of settings, I mean, there's so much life in this church. You need to pat yourself on your back because, God is definitely here. So, I need to tell you a story on Lori and I. When we came here this morning, what's the name of your church? We thought it was Word of God. Until we saw the sign out there. You're going to find out that God's working. And what I always pray for before I come up is always pray that use me as a tool. And God is at work. And it's the work of God. The name of your church just fits perfect. There was a young man, and many of you may have heard this story before, but there's a young man that wanted to change the world, and he's 20 years old. So he did everything he could to change the world. He got to 30 and he was frustrated because he wasn't changing things. Things weren't happening. Decided, okay, I'm going to regroup. I'm just going to change the country. So he spent the next decade trying to change the country. He made no progress. Wasn't able to do things. So he goes into his 40s. He says, okay, I'm just going to change my state. So he spent the next decade working to change the state. No change. Goes into his 50s, decides, okay, I'm just going to change my city. The end of the decade, no change. Now into the 60s. Says, okay, I'm just going to change my family. Works through the 60s, his 60s. Gets to 70, not much change. At 70, it comes to him and he realizes, what if I just change myself? And he did, and with God's help, he changed the world. God is molding us. God is molding us every day. We're like and I talked to somebody about the big jug rock, which we had questions on in Shoals, but it's a big rock, okay? That's the way we are. And God molds us. God changes us. God brings out his little tools, and he's constantly building us. He's constantly chiseling away at us. Where did it all start for us? My father taught me, as far as changing the world, one of the things he always taught us was, you are no better than anyone else. Story comes to mind. Cody told us a story about walking into a convenience store. Cody's with the Charlotte Hornets now, was the Charlotte Bobcats then. He walks into a convenience store and he's got all of his Bobcat gear on. So here he is, 7 foot tall. Sticks out like a sore thumb. It's one of those situations where you had to go in because one of his teammates asked him to. So he's doing something for somebody else. And he walks into this convenience store, and as he's walking in, he notices that there's a individual that has an old coat on. It's dusty. Doesn't have much for shoes on. He's got socks on his feet. Socks on his hands. And as he walks by him, he does the typical, okay, don't make eye contact with them because they're going to ask money. He's obviously a homeless guy. He goes into the store, he gets what he needs, and once again, it's just a convenience store. And all of a sudden, this homeless guy comes flying into him and throws his body up against him, So Cody's, 7 foot tall, so he hits him in the leg and starts yelling, ball, 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 ball. At that point, Cody could have looked and said, this guy's out off his rocker, we need to change something, we need to get rid of him. Nope, Cody just stood there. Okay? Cody's, in his mind, he said, okay, what's the guy going to do next? So he had plans. He acts like he gets the ball, shoots a hook shot over top of him, and yes! So what's Cody do at that point? Once again, he could have walked out the same way he walked in, didn't make eye contact. Instead, as he was going out, he walked over to the homeless guy, and he gives him a high five. And Cody describes it, for those of you that are basketball players, when LeBron James throws up the top powder at the beginning of the game and that smoke looks like it goes everywhere. That's what it looked like when Cody hit the glove. Said everything just fit. So, doesn't matter. We're no better than anyone else. But my dad always taught us pride. No one is better than us. Okay? Yeah, they may have better talent. You can imagine the boys playing against LeBron James. Dirk Nowitzki is Dirk is Cody's idol. Been his idol since he was 8 or 9 years old. Can you imagine playing against him? Tyler describes when he was playing against Tim Duncan, which was his idol. He said he goes out there and he said he was kind of in awe. Playing against my idol. Wow, this is amazing. But you know what? After Tim went by him the first 2 times, Tyler said, I got to play defense. I've got to bring myself up to their level. I've got to bring myself up. I'm not going to tear him down. I got to bring myself up. And that's something we all need to do. Bring ourselves up. It's what God's asking us to do. Bring ourselves up. Continue. And did you get better today? Once again, God's got that chisel. He's got that hammer. And he's using it to put us all, make us into the sculpture that he wants us to be. We just got to allow it. We've got to allow it. And what tools does he use? Does he use? Sometimes he has to use a hammer with me, and it's usually through Lori to get my attention. But that's what he's doing. He's using people. I'm the youngest of 12. I got 5 brothers and 6 sisters. Okay? So my mother, at one point, we were talking about baptism, which is always when do you baptize? When do you do that? Well, she always said that the way she looked at it, she basically told us we could do whatever we wanted because it's whatever God drove us to. Let's go to the next one. What I was going to say is Luke, after he made that shot, that's Luke. Obviously, he didn't do that. He didn't make that shot. He gave the credit where the credit. And then what's really neat about this picture from a parent standpoint, that's Tyler in the background yelling. It's a very, very memorable moment for us. Like I was saying, my mother said that God gave her children, and she gave them back to God when she had us baptized. To me, that's just kind of a really neat thing for a mother to say. So our kids continue to be a big, important part of our lives. But our kids, I believe there's nothing more important we do in this life than to help kids get better, whether it's our own or somebody else. I really believe there's nothing more important. Luke, just to give you an update on all 3 of our boys, Luke works at Premier Health as a business coordinator. He is married to Hope, and they have our first grandson, Kyson. He's 2 years old, and he's quite a character, quite a guy. Okay? got this down now. Good job. Give Lori a hand. Tyler plays for Boston. I love this picture because, once again, it just happened about, it was about 3/4 of the way through the season. He scores with 1.7 seconds left. Look at his teammates coming out to cheer him on. I just love that picture. So Tyler plays for Boston, and Tyler is married to Caitlin. Okay, Lori. Cody, he plays for Charlotte, and Cody, he talks to girls. Next slide. When we're talking about, God chiseling us, making us, he developed all of us with different talents. He developed all of us in different ways. But I believe the way he looks at that is he looks at, this is my body. And I need a right arm. I need a left arm. I need different things to be able to, everything to fall together. Our three boys, that's Luke, Tyler, and Cody, their personalities are a lot alike, but very different. Luke, we always say that if they go to a party, if they were at a party and there was 100 people there, Luke would go to that party and he would get to know something about every one of those people at that party before the party is over. He's our social one. Tyler would walk in, he would go to a corner, and there'd be 2 or 3 people that'd come over and he'd get to know those people really, really well. And that would be all that he would care about. Cody would go in and play a practical joke on every single one of them. That's the 3 personalities. With that, God gave us those personalities to put us into a spot to be able to do things for him. God did create us all equal, but with the different talents. So if you think about it, when we come into this earth, we have nothing. He has us go through, and with my mother's thoughts that we're given back to God, when we die, we've already been given back to God. We're already his. Now we just get to go meet him. Family. Our family, in the family as we get older, Lori and I get older, yeah, we've got our mom and our dad, which they've all passed away except for Lori's dad, Marv, that's in this picture. But they touched us, they're part of us. Hopefully we passed on to our kids, part of us. But I think back of as far as some of the things that, and we all have them in our lives, those moments where we knew God was there. I'm going to go back to I was about 5 or 6 years old. It's Christmas Eve. My dad had somewhere south of a 6th grade education. He was in World War II. He was a military police. He was blind in one eye, so obviously he was one of the last ones taken, but he was going to go fight for his country. He was the man's man. No emotion. I don't ever remember my dad saying, "I love you." I remember trying to kiss him goodnight when I was younger, and he'd take his rough beard and rub it up against you and give that little, that was his way of showing us that he loved us. It's Christmas Eve. We're out on the farm. Both my mom and dad, Lori's mom and dad, were farmers in a little town in Iowa. You can imagine 12 kids plus now it's grown. We've got nephews and nieces. my nephew's only 3 years younger than me. Ripping through those presents, papers everywhere. After it was over, we all had our presents, but the wrapping papers were everywhere. My dad always had a ritual. He'd go get a trash bag. He'd start putting all of those papers into that trash bag. So I remember this Christmas Eve, I thought, well, I'm going to go out and see what he does with those. Why is it such a big deal for him? So we head out, and I remember putting on a coat, but I didn't have any gloves on. I remember it's Iowa, so on the 24th in December, it's cold, but it was one of those nights where there was no wind. So it was a calm night. I always still like those nights where it's cold, but there's no wind. The moon was out. As we walked in behind the garage, we go to the burn barrel, and my dad, having grown up in the Depression, everything was a ritual. Everything was a process. So he stacks those papers in there. I'm waiting for it to get cold because I realized I didn't have my mittens on at this point. My hands are starting to get cold. He finally pulls out the one match, and I knew he only had one match because that's all. My dad was very, very conservative. He only had that one match, and to this day I still can't do it, but he lights it with his thumb. He just flicks it and lights it with his thumb down in there. One of those long wooden matches. He gets it lit, the flames start building. And as I look up, I happen to notice the oak trees up above. Once again, middle of the winter, no leaves on them. The flames start dancing back and forth. I see an ash come up out of the burn barrel. And as I watch that ash, that hot red ash, float up towards those trees, that hardcore World War II veteran, no emotion, man's man, reached down, grabbed my hand. The God moment. God chiseling away at us. God sending us a message. I'm going to flash forward you ahead to about 7 years ago. I got had a bad heart valve. They had to have open heart surgery. They had to replace my aorta with a mechanical valve. Lori, bless her heart, she was there. I had surgery on Monday. She was there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, I wasn't a great patient because I had to get up and down about every 10 minutes. For those of you that have had heart surgery, I feel for you. For those of you that haven't, it's one of those that you just never get comfortable. Your back hurts, your chest hurts, everything hurts. So you're up, down, turning around. Well, Luke, who was up at Notre Dame at the time, he came home to give Lori a break on that Thursday night. Again, when you come in and out of sleep, everybody's been through that. They know it's kind of cobwebs, you're not real sure when you wake up what you're hearing, whether it's a dream, whether it's not. I woke up one of those times during that night. As I was waking up, I could hear somebody talking. And I could hear him asking God to touch me with their healing hand. When I woke up, Luke was down on his knees, all 6'11" frame of him. He had his elbows on my bed. He had his hands cupped over top of me, praying to God. Again, God was using Luke as a tool. love this saying. Never let a day go by that you don't do something for someone that can't repay you. This is Cody at a children's hospital just this year. There's so many things that happen in our lives that you think you know, you think you're in control, you think that you are running things. Example of that, once again, God used several people as a tool. Jared is an individual I met about 2 years ago. Cody was going through the NBA draft. Before the draft, he had 10 teams he had to try out for. So he would go to that city. He would stay overnight, try out with the team, fly to another city, try out with the team, fly to another city. He had 10 of those. He was on his third one. He was in Portland. I was doing a talk up in Columbus, and I was asked to stick around. And there was somebody that they wanted me to meet. So we go over, after the talk, we go over to the hospital, and it was actually in hospice. A hospital that had a room. Wasn't real sure what I was going to be getting myself into. And as I walk in, I'm being told that Jared, the 26-year-old IU graduate, that had terminal cancer. He had been told 6 months ago that he would only live 5 months. So he'd already outlived what they told him he would do. We go, and he's talking about how Cody and Victor Oladipo helped him get through because they played that whole season. It was Cody's sophomore year. And he talked about how uplifting it was. And to see a guy that had tubes going in everywhere, but he was up, he was smiling, you could see that he was just shining because I was there to be able to talk about Cody. Well, I thought, I'm going to try to get a hold of Cody. Try to call him on my phone. So I text him, said, Cody, would you give me a call? Remember, he's in Portland, Oregon out there, getting ready the next day to try out with another team. So Cody does end up texting me back, says, yeah, you can call me. So I step out in the hallway. We actually, when I got Cody's text, we were actually hand in hand praying with Jared and his family. So I step out in the hallway. I tell Cody who Jared is, what the situation is. Would you talk to him? I'm in control. I'm helping Jared out. So I go back in, and I've got a goofy picture of Cody on my phone. So I said, Jared, I'd like to have a guy you'd like to talk to. He looks at the picture, and of course he's excited. He asked a couple questions about Portland, and then he says, because we can only hear Jared's side of the phone conversation. He says, Cody, I know you're struggling, but I'm here to tell you that God has told me to tell you to live each day to the fullest. Enjoy where you're at. Don't look ahead. Enjoy the moment. We're sitting in the room thinking, wow, this guy's trying out for the NBA. How could he be? thinking, where does that come from? What did he say? So I can't wait to get in the car. I get in the car, I'm driving home, call up Cody, said, Cody, what did you say to get Jared to say that? I didn't say anything. I said, but I'll tell you what, I have a whole different attitude. Because I knew I had 7 more of these to go through. I was dreading it. But I'm not dreading it anymore. God continues to use us as tools in so many ways, so many things that we do. I think we've got to tell stories. I'm one of those that as soon as I start telling a story, my sons go, oh gosh. But I believe we got to tell stories because the Bible, Jesus, parables, stories. One of the things that we do, Lori and I do training, and one of the stories that we tell is about priorities and having your priorities right, because basketball, football, volleyball, whatever the case may be, whatever sport, I love it for the fact it teaches you things about life quickly. But you know what? That's not the end. So many of us want it to be the end. That's not the end. Lori? Academics. We told our boys academics. They didn't play sports. Plus they did their chores and they did their academics. They studied. Because that basketball is going to stop dribbling for them someday, but you know what? That academics is going to continue on. And I'll never forget Tyler, a very proud moment, probably one of our proudest moments, is that he was academic All-American for the whole country. The #1 guy for the whole country in basketball his senior year. And this is his quote. This is a great honor and something I've worked for my entire 4 years at Carolina. To be the first Tar Heel to win this award at a school with so much tradition and prestige adds to this honor. At this point, my heart kind of sunk. I'm thinking, me. Tyler became that athlete that he was the guy. He was the one doing it.
Come awake, come and rise up from the grave.